Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Today we're here to cover if Rosenior is the right man for Chelsea Football Club. Okay, welcome back to the channel. Again, I am joined by Patrick Montgomery, who was the lead recruitment analyst for the first team at Liverpool for 8 years. And we're now here to cover if Rosenior could be the man to take over Chelsea after Enzo Maresca's falling out with the board. And yeah, just wanted to say, welcome back to the channel.
Oh, it's good to be here, yeah.
Yeah, it's this is going to be a really interesting one because despite the outrage of the last few weeks of Chelsea Football Club and what's happened, me and Patrick quite like Rosenior, and I think we're very positive about his ideas. I think he's a really good speaker, really good communicator, and I'm wishing him the best for this job, which at the moment seems like an absolute mind, you know what. So yeah, we're going to speak today about Chelsea, about what Rosenior is doing at Strasbourg, what he could implement at Chelsea, what the first 11 could look like. By the time we're recording this, it will be announced. And just right off the top, what have you made of not just Rosenior at Strasbourg, but him as a coach, the amount of material that's available for us?
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly a student of the game. I think he's clearly somebody that loves his football. He clearly is a deep thinker. I think he's obviously very strategic. You can see throughout his early management career, whether it be Derby, Hull and Strasbourg, that he's clearly somebody that's super flexible within systems. He's clearly intelligent, and also somebody that I think a modern manager, people talk about these modern coaches, would look like.
I think he's a very interesting manager because it seems he's making a massive step up here to Chelsea, even though obviously he's at Strasbourg, who are owned by Clear Lake, or Blue Coast, sorry. And yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very interesting one. I'm just going to go off by just saying, yeah, so managed at Derby as an assistant coach under Wayne Rooney, obviously went in at Brighton on the under-23s as well, and then went to Hull City and then became the manager. And there was a little bit of people didn't think the Hull squad was good enough to get into the playoffs, and then he had a summer where they actually got really close, and then he got sacked from that club, but it looked like it was going to be a really, really bright, young coach, up and coming. And then he went to Strasbourg and they've finished 7th last season. They're currently sitting in 7th this season. A little bit of turbulent form towards the last few weeks, but we are going to speak today about his tactics and what to expect and what he has produced in his most recent job. So I'm going to show you on the board right now, and actually before I do this, I want to stress just how important the goalkeeper is, because we've got the ball at the goalkeeper's feet. And Mike Penders is the Strasbourg goalkeeper, and he has got a ridiculously aggressive role out of the back. Now, I'm not sure if Patrick will be familiar with this, but there was this loose report that Todd Bowley apparently asked Tuchel to play a 4-4-3 rather than a 4-3-3, and it became a running joke online. Okay. But now it looks funny because if you actually move Penders as to where he stands in possession most of the time, if you take away the numbers and you look at it on paper, it looks like a 4-4-3. And he does somewhat activate that plus one advantage, and it makes Strasbourg almost unpressable man-to-man against a high-pressing team. So automatically this situation, we've got the boxing midfield here. We'll talk about how they play from the 3-4-3 to sometimes go into a little bit more of a diamond. They are very flexible. He's used a number of different formations in his time at Strasbourg, obviously at Hull as well. But Mike Penders has an 85% pass completion in comparison to the 65% of Robert Sanchez. And we are going to start with the build-up element of Strasbourg. And they are a very slow ball speed, short distance, baiting build-up team. And do you want to elaborate as to sort of, he's had a lot of coaching idols that he's alluded to in these interviews, and where that holds maybe some positives but potentially some negatives for Chelsea?
Well, I think obviously Pep was the one people speak about a lot of the time with this, whether you want to call it a 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1 system. I think particularly in the build-up, it gives you that ability to outnumber the opposition. So wing-backs obviously high and wide, creates that width for you. Centre-backs will obviously split, and then it gives you these double tens or pocket players, you may describe them in the box, that can come inside and create this box formation. So I think if you're looking to build through, you've got that numerical advantage. It gives players in deeper positions different angles to find, and also find them a little bit easier. So when you speak about a lot of short passes, that's where it will come from, because there's always little angles. There's ability to play short, entice in a press, to then get through, and then they've got talented ball players, particularly now we're going to speak about Chelsea.
Yeah.
Ones that in these half spaces will then be able to hurt teams and the opposition going the other way.
Yeah, I think a number one standout difference between Maresca and Rosenior in the tactical setup and the instructions of the players is Maresca would often use fullbacks inside the pitch to attack. So if you can imagine, if we just push this back into the base of a 3-2-4-1, if you like, Maresca would often use these underlapping charges, if you like, from the likes of Gusto and Cucurella to attack these spaces. We highlighted it when they beat PSG in the Club World Cup. They've scored a lot of goals from them positions. Liam Rosenior's got a different view going off his managerial career so far as to what them fullbacks is. We usually see a lot of tuck-ins on one side, so sometimes, yes, they do play a 4-2-3-1. So when it's like this, they usually tuck it in one side. So we can imagine if this is Chelsea, potentially we can go to Cucurella, who's more of a left centre-back profile, shifts along the back line, and then that leaves you with a flying full-back. And just to throw sort of some ideas out there potentially, if this was a player like a Reece James, like a Malo Gusto, and you've got Palmer in the centre here, automatically you can see that if this inverts inside from the winger and the number 10, you can potentially get a player like Palmer, who's a great pocket player, on the left, and a player like an Esteval, just to throw a name out there. And then you get your fullbacks high and wide, which is what we've seen mostly from Rosenior at Strasbourg. And that's very different to what Maresca was doing with his fullbacks. Could you maybe touch on who could be the key parts to watch out for in terms of who's natural in that system?
Yeah,
and that
I think
blueprint?
obviously Chelsea have a lot of options, don't they? I know they've got a few injuries, particularly sort of in the back three areas. But I think the biggest thing you're looking at straight away is, with respect to Strasbourg, you're now working with more elite players. So Reece James, you touched upon, I think will be a key player, whether that is in a wing-back position or as one of the two in a double pivot.
Yep.
You've then, of course, got your double tens or your half-space players. I think the interesting decision he's going to make is to how to make that balance effectively, because there seems to be a lot of left-footed coming off the sides. Have they got anybody maybe at this present moment that is a right-sided player or right-footed player that can come in off the other side to knit things together and to combine? So there's definitely key players. You touched on the keeper, whoever that may be.
Yeah.
That's going to be pivotal for everything they want to do and build up. I think they may look forward in the future to getting a centre-half that you would argue is unbelievable on the ball. So somebody that you feel plays with a real swagger, can put their foot on it, slow things down, pick passes, then have obviously athleticism either side if they play the three. They've obviously got the nice balance at the moment, whether they play the two with Enzo and Caicedo. So we'll obviously touch about a diamond, I imagine, shortly, but I think they complement each other in the sense of Enzo now will have more angles if there's a box in midfield to play through. You've then also got I think the wing-backs pretty well suited already, whether it's Cucurella, Gusto, Reece James. I think the number 9 position could be an interesting one we've spoken about. I know Rosenior's spoken of his admiration of a traditional 9 type, somebody that can attack crosses, somebody that can hold up the ball, bringing others into play. That then will be interesting to see who he goes for, whether it is João Pedro, whether it is Delap a little bit more. So the players are there. I think like anything, it's just going to be him trying to balance out in time and being on the training pitch who he feels is best for the moment.
If you're enjoying the video and want more tactical analysis and podcasts, please press the subscribe button below and hit the bell to enable post notifications. Yeah, 100%. I think the number one thing that I was thinking about when you were saying that is the amount of players that he's worked with in this Chelsea team already. So the likes of Andre Santos, Liam Delap also at Hull. We had a conversation before, and Liam Delap did actually play a few games under Rosenior at Hull at right wing, but he's grown a lot since then. And even with his sub appearance against Manchester City yesterday at the time of recording, he was outstanding in that game. And one thing that did stick out to me quite a lot in that game was how much better some of the Chelsea players seemed to be at playing at a more fast tempo. I think you look at Andre Santos was instrumental to the game flipping on its head in the second half as well, and that's another player that he's worked with. But Delap was an absolute nuisance throughout that second half, and even his decoy run for the Enzo equaliser, he takes 2 or 3 defenders with him across the front post, and that opens up the space for the cutback. But if I was looking quite interestingly at some of the problems that Enzo Maresca faced, what Rosenior could therefore change in some of the tactical setups of Chelsea, and you look at the players he's worked with, Andre Santos and Delap changed that game against City, and they look to be, for me, two of the players who could have the biggest revivals, if you like. Obviously, they've barely got started at Chelsea.
No, I think that it's like any club. I think when a new manager comes in, there's always players that either feel, okay, this is a chance for me.
Yeah.
We spoke again about certain players that may be on loan at Strasbourg that have been at Chelsea originally, or players at Chelsea that are completely out of the frame. And I think it gives everybody a bit of freshness. But I agree. I think we touched on before about he's spoken about those traditional nines, but also players that he has worked with before. He's going to know them inside out. So there may be that level of trust a little bit more than somebody doesn't know quite yet.
Yeah.
And that may give them an opportunity to show what they can do. Yeah,
I think we'll move on now into speaking about a little bit of the tweaking within the system. So I've got, as per Scout here, since the start of the 24-25 season, Strasbourg have played 35 games with the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-2-1 formation. They've played 17 with 4-2-3-1 and 10 at 4-4-2. There is a lot of chopping and changing in this, and there's a lot of, we were speaking, it's actually quite funny because he's such a young English modern type of coach. There's a lot of material out there for you to do your due diligence and to do your research on, even as a fan. There are so many mic'd up sessions if he's either on the touchline in France or he's in a training session with Hull. There's so many mic'd up sessions where you can actually see his intentions in the game. And the one mic'd up session that we were talking about before was they played Angers and they went 1-0 up. And he, at the time in the game, was playing more of a diamond with 3 pocket players in behind the number 9. So that would obviously give you what would look like a 3-1-6, as people like to call it. But then after the game turned and they went 1-0 up, he went to a double 6, a double pivot, and dropped one in like that. Now, that is something that Maresca reviewed a little bit at Chelsea, but I think you're going to see a lot more adaptability within the games from Rosenior as to be, if they feel, and we'll go on to speak about how he builds the layers on top of clubs as his quotes do suggest, but he's a very tactically flexible manager, especially when it comes to that box in the midfield. It's not just about having players occupying the 5 lines across the front. It's about the angles, as you were saying before. Could you maybe explain why a diamond in the centre for these two could work better for Enzo?
I think with Enzo, I touched on it a little bit before. I think he's spoken a lot, Rosenior, about the fact that he wants structure but freedom within that. And I know a lot of coaches say that, but I think he wants players to be able to express themselves. So I think even if you're trying to build naturally, if you've got that diamond, straight away you've got 4, even 5, 6 passing options here, whether it's bouncing back into opposite centre-backs, playing around corners. Enzo has the ability as well to sort of play through pressure too. He even has the capacity to hit some of these longer passes. Now, I know that's not something that Strasbourg have necessarily done as often, go longer, but I think by creating that diamond, as long as you've got players with the quality of an Enzo that can do it, if you're able to entice pressure and create this numerical advantage, they've got the ability in this shape, like you say, you're more offset, you're not in straight lines, you've got the capacity to work through people and play quickly in a transition. I think you spoke about a Strasbourg goal, which you may speak about after, in terms of that.
So, just jumping off the back of what Patrick was saying, we were talking before about all of their data, Strasbourg's data, does on the eye look to be a very slow-paced possession team. So, long passes in Liga in this season, last. Switches last, short passes third, through balls first, touches in defensive third, first. And then we've also got percentage of passes in their own half. They are third highest, passes per shot, second highest. So they're taking what appears to be a lot of touches, a lot of passes, a lot of slow-paced possession. But there was a goal they scored, and I'm going to try my best to potentially recreate this on the board, and if not, I'll throw up some screenshots. But they do sit against a 4-4-2 in this 3-box-3 formation. And what was really interesting to me was how they went from playing really slow-paced possession to completely changing the pace of the game. And it was against a stubborn, compact 4-4-2, which is there's going to be a lot of this in England. Yeah. What they like to do is, if the ball is at these outside centre-backs, as you were saying, the diamond, in comparison to the box, opens up more diagonal lines between the pitch and the ability to cut through these lines. And what happens in this goal is the left centre-back fires the ball into the pocket number 8 who drops in. And then the 9 touches off the first line. And then we go bang, and it's back to front inside 13 seconds. They go from here to the back of the net. And it's a wall pass played off the number 8 that's played diagonally in here, off the left-footed, curved in, back into there, back to the striker, and then they break through the wing back who's running into here, and it's cut back to Amiga and he scores. Strasbourg have the capacity to change the pace of the game, and they do go fast in moments. If you go and watch their Nice penalty decision that they won at the weekend in their 1-1 draw, there's a similar pattern in that game as to where they can stand on the ball for quite a long time. And for me, his Hull side was a very slow-paced, slow tempo, not really a lot of ball speed, but there was a lot of short distance passes like this. But in that Hull side, there was a lot of that, but there does seem to be an element of freedom, creativity, improvisation maybe from the players, that if they can see an opening within the lines, he does trust them players to accelerate the game and to make that work. The good thing for Chelsea fans is he's now coming into a squad that has even more technical ability than the Strasbourg squad. So do you think there's a potential that he won't only just adapt structurally, but he could actually give the players more freedom for all the control he wants?
Yeah, well, like you touched on there, I think ultimately with respect to Strasbourg, he's got better players now, better quality players. I think that goal you spoke about as well is probably could be an influence of his sort of admiration for De Zerbi as well. Yeah. I know a lot of the time people spoke about his ability, particularly with some of the centre-halves, to entice the press, to take an extra touch, sometimes put your foot on the ball and completely slow the game down, to then inject the pace really quickly. So you almost lull the opposition into a sense of safety to then play quickly. So I think, like you've touched on, he definitely has the players now to play a variety of different shapes and systems. Like anything, that it's probably an issue that most coaches would want. He's probably got so many options. It's which one is he going to pick? Yeah. The Premier League managers are ruthless as well, and Premier League teams are ruthless. They won't be sort of waiting for him to come in and let him play. They'll know exactly, like you said, the amount of research we've done. Yeah. You can see opposition teams will be doing that already, so that'll be another challenge that he faces.
Yeah, I think as well, as Patrick was saying, this does feel like a really touchy one, because it's very rare that a manager comes in, and they're not unliked per se, but it does feel like they've brought a manager in and some of the fans already aren't having the manager because of the way the situation has happened with the manager turnover. People think that maybe he's a bit intrusive on the Maresca project or whatnot. But for me, he's a very smart guy, as we were saying before. I want to touch on this quote he had at Hull, which was talking about how he built layers onto mainly his defensive shape. And we're going to talk about how Chelsea did something really interesting yesterday. And I messaged Patrick about this last night. And we seen Maresca do this at the Etihad as well. With, I actually think it was Madueke in one of the games against City away. And they looked to play more of a 5-2-3, and Pedro Neto against City was being the one who was tracking the extra man down the side when City want to get 5 across the last line, and that flattens it out and it looks like a 5-2-3, which in cases sometimes is what Liam Rosenior plays. Now, at Hull City, Rosenior made a quote talking about that he wanted to instill defensive solidity and he didn't want to be so aggressive. So he went to more of a zonal mid-block, and to put that into really simple terms, it means a block that's setting like this that isn't focused on pressing individuals. It's all about protecting the space between each player. And what it means is if you're in a more compact unit, it's easier to follow the instruction. Then he said, after the summer, and he got time to work on it, and even we said this, there's a mic'd up training session at Hull during the pre-season where he's coaching the ability to jump out of a zonal press. So we can imagine that if the red team have got the ball, let's just say this is their back four. I know it's Messer, but let's just say this is the back four. There's a situation where he's coaching on the grass as the pressing triggers and setting the pressing traps, for me, in a Rosenior team, are really clear. So they can go from defending in a mid-block, and when the ball is worked into more of a dangerous area, let's say the right back's on the ball and he's only really got a couple degrees to work with, then the blue team in Strasbourg and potentially will be Chelsea, they can jump out of that zonal press to go more man for man and to force the ball back. Yeah. And that is an adaptation that Rosenior has not only shown at Hull, but he's used it a lot at Strasbourg. And yeah, this could be very, very key, because he's going to go into a Chelsea team now and results are massive right from the off. I think we said before, Chelsea have won 1 in 8.
Yes.
And if he's looking to get the assurance from the board, from the fans, get everyone on board, he needs results. So how key will it be to adapt off the ball?
Yeah, I think so. I think you touched on it there. I think we both saw the same piece in terms of what Hull spoke about, the importance of when he went in at the time, the team were just above the relegation zone.
Yep.
He knew he needed results quickly. So for him, like most managers, I think the importance was to build a foundation defensively that kept the team solid. And I think he spoke about the importance of zonal was more steady for them at the time. And it took a while, I think a few months before he actually went away to, ironically, Maresca at Leicester we spoke about and spoke with the players, and they said, no, actually we can go man for man. We feel we can do it, and they got a good result. So I think he's going to have to, he will know, once he gets on the pitch, he'll understand the players and understand the qualities and attributes that they have as to how to initially set up, whether he does this in certain games to be more compact, maybe away from home where they need to be a little bit more stable, or in their home games, do they go more, like we spoke about, 3-4-3, bit more man for man against some of the mid-table teams or lower half teams. So that's where he's got a lot of options and a lot of choice with different players. It's going to come down to the opposition, what he sees on the training pitch to make that decision.
Yeah, and I think one more. I was talking before again about they played PSG away, and he actually said, in his own words, it's easier to convince a team of younger players to do what looks like incredibly aggressive and if not stupid things to do. And he went to PSG and he was saying that the young team, you can convince them because they've got no scars, they don't press man for man for their entire career, and they've not got this moment in their head. They're constantly thinking of, I got done round my blind side at this point. But they played PSG, and this is incredible. They played in the 3-4-3, and they went completely man-to-man across the pitch. Now, when they were in the 3-4-3, so if I could just imagine that this is the back five, and I'll push everything up now, and let's just say the ball is with the keeper, and they've got the two in midfield, and the two wide players either here. Now, we've all watched PSG, especially in the Champions League. These were pushed up here to jump onto Paris's build-up, PSG's build-up. Now, in the eights for PSG, they move everywhere, and the wingers, nice, high and wide. Now, in the situation where these eights are dropping in to help a player like Rosenior and João Neves out, these centre-backs will follow extremely aggressive. I've got a few pictures to show you just how aggressive this press is, and it looks exactly like it is on the board. Massive distances between the two defenders, and don't forget, the two players who are marking PSG's wingers are sometimes wingers. Yeah. So the amount of trust that he's giving these players and the amount of aggression he's carrying out some of these defensive principles in is extremely, it's good to watch. For me, I had a conversation with someone online and they were saying, do you think this is brave? Because I think it's really naive. And that's the fine balance in it. That's football for you. But for me, if I'm looking at a coach who's trying to manage a big team and they're trying to be on the front foot, and that's the way I view football. I think if you are a big team and you want to stamp on the game, you go for it. You go for the throat. They drew 3-3 away with PSG in this game, and it worked. Yeah. And they were brilliant in the first half. I think they created 3 times as many XG as PSG. I think they were 2-1 up potentially at half time, and it looked incredible. But the amount of detail that needs to go into a press like this is huge, and it's going to take a lot of convincing.
I think it is, but I think also you touched on it. I think that's clearly his philosophy, his way of playing. He said, I think in another interview, that he'd like in 10 years' time for people to reference some of his teams, where whatever level that may be at, and say that's how they play. So I actually commend him for wanting to back himself if he does that and play differently. I think it's a lot more comfortable to come in and make yourself hard to beat and be difficult. But I think, of course, they may get caught out in the first few games with being slightly late on a trigger to press, or certain moments like this. I think then maybe to do this in certain games early on will be really brave for him, especially if he's away to one of the big teams. But I think it may be something obviously he eventually would like to do. And he could argue, well, I've done this and it's led to where I am now. So I think he's obviously been brave with it. People will call it naive if he loses, but if he wins, they'll call him genius. So yeah, it's football, like you said.
The problem is with obviously Chelsea and the Premier League and the beast that it is, you can't have too many mistakes.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be really interesting. It's one of the most fascinating appointments because I look at him as a manager and what he's doing at Strasbourg and the adaptability between the jobs. And even though people may say that he's out of his depth and stuff like that, he does on paper profile as a really modern, aggressive
for sure.
coach.
And I think people might say, oh, he's not a big name, but at the end of the day, I think he's had over 150 games as a coach. He's obviously cut his teeth, no matter what you say, however long that spell may have been. He's been at Derby, he's been at Hull. He's obviously been brave to go to a club like Strasbourg. Probably thought strategically that it was a good decision for him being part of Blueco, but I don't think he'd have anticipated this opportunity coming up so quickly. But like I said before, I'm pro people being positive and trying to express their personality on a team, and obviously whether that works or not, time will tell. But like you say, it fits the model of what they may want to do, and I think he is a good option for somebody that's already within their structure that they can bring in.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. It's a mind-boggling one because I can't lie. I really like him. I really like the way he speaks about football. I really like the way he sets his teams up. I like his idea of football. Like I was saying before, the whole team sometimes a little bit too slow for me. It's not my idea of what I like football to be, which is a lot more risk-taking. But in the Strasbourg team, we have spoke about that dynamic of being able to play in between and giving the players the freedom when he feels like it's right. Yeah. And obviously, he's going into a team, as we mentioned now, that's got way more technical ability in there and dominates their league to a higher extent. Yeah. So hopefully, within the upgrade and the player quality, you'll see the upgrade and the freedom and the permission allowed to give to his players on the ball. Off the ball, I'm not too sure. There's a lot to work on off the ball for this team.
I think he'll will know the Premier League, but he'll obviously have to really work with his coaching team and his staff to understand how it may have changed since he last sort of was around it in detail. But I think the other thing we spoke about was there's no doubt he's improved players. Yeah. I think you look at the Strasbourg side where he took them to 7th in the league. Now I know people may turn around and say they had players on loan from Chelsea, they spent a bit of money, but fundamentally they finished 7th in the league, qualified for the Conference League. I also think
top of the Conference League.
Yeah, and I think I read something somewhere that he was the first coach to field an entirely under-23 outfield 11. So I think he's somebody that's clearly brave. Yeah. He clearly wants to make a mark. Now, whether that will be successful for him, we don't know. Because again, people may turn around and name other more experienced managers or bigger name managers and say they could come in and get us competing immediately. But this is the decision, like you said, it's always a 50-50 is do you go with somebody that could be great in the long term, or do you go for somebody who may fit immediately but may not fit in with the kind of philosophy of the whole club.
If they've got a higher profile as a manager as well, they're probably looking at what Rosenior's doing, managing a quiet ship over at Strasbourg, not kicking up too many fussies over there. And if they went and got a high reputation manager, they could have a similar situation on their hands as a Maresca, where they have conflict, and that is the nature of the beast. And I'm not excusing anything that Chelsea have done. I thought Maresca, well, I still think Maresca's an absolutely brilliant manager. I think tactically, the one-off games, we analysed him multiple times on this channel. He was and still is a very, very good manager. I just think Liam Rosenior is also a very, very good manager, a proven sort of developer of players. The way his teams play are aggressive. He can clearly get young players to believe in what he wants to do, clearly. Yeah. Whether that's sit deep, jump out, play with the ball on the edge of the halfway line with your goalkeeper. There's clearly something there where he gets them involved. And Andre Santos, who's now at Chelsea, has spoken about how much he loves Liam Rosenior and the relationship them two have. And going off that, I mean, he even said in his most recent press conference, the players were joking, saying, "Oh, Gaffer, don't go, like, we want you to stay." So you don't just build that out of thin air. No. He's clearly a very good people person.
Yeah, I think we've seen interviews where he's spoken about, I know a lot of coaches and managers may say this, but the human for them comes first. So I think he clearly, from what we've seen, is somebody that feels if he can get the players believing in him and feel that he cares for them, then they will hopefully perform for him on the pitch. And I think he's obviously got a tight unit there with his coaching staff. Players that I think he spoke about, ex-players from France that know the league, know the players, know the culture. I think now he's stepping into a brand new environment where he'll need that because it's massive personalities. Like you say, it's the highest level of the game. Like everything is going to be under a microscope for him. So he'll obviously be looking to start well and obviously get a little bit of that pressure off his back.
Yeah. I think it's such a unique one. We're going to wrap up in a minute. It's so unique because we were saying, There's absolutely loads of stuff on him, whether it's his own written work, it's his mic'd up training sessions, it's interviews, the way he speaks openly about the game. Obviously, it's a plus side that he's English because you can understand every word that he says, but the media coverage on him is well bigger than some foreign managers in other leagues. He has got so much written everything just out there, and the way he speaks about the game is very interesting, and it's almost like everyone knows what kind of manager he is before he's even come into the job.
And I think that'll be the thing, we touched on it before, the amount of research we've been able to carry out and find. Fulham will be doing that immediately now, so straight away they'll have probably picked up on a lot of the key points we've touched on tactically. They'll understand maybe what his different options will be in certain systems and shapes. So I think that's going to be the challenge for him now, is first and foremost getting the players on board quickly, getting results naturally, but then also being able to be flexible like he has been, both during games and also pre-games as well. So it'd be really interesting.
Just the last one. Do you think he will? This is obviously just your opinion. He might do something else completely different. Do you think he will go in with a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-3 and go, this is what I want? Or do you think he actually will change from game to game?
I don't have a clue, but I think he may initially be a little bit flexible. He may look at the team and think, okay, 1 win in 8. He may go, depend on the opposition as well. He may go, okay, we'll try and be a little bit solid initially, just get the results. But I think he's clearly got the desire to want to be flexible. I don't think necessarily he'll come in and say, this is 100% how we're playing every single week. I think he's now got the players.
Not a dogmatic coach.
No, I think he's got the players as well now to play different systems. So I think he might have a preferred shape, whether they play certain teams at home or away. But I think he'll probably be a little bit more flexible until he probably finds what he feels is right. If they go on a winning streak of 4 or 5 matches playing a certain system, then naturally he'll stick with that, I think. But the way he seems to speak and the way he talks about systems are important, but the idea is the most important thing. I think that's something that I think will probably materialise. Yeah, perfect. I think the same. I think he'll probably go in and he'll probably do 3-4-3, 4-2-3-1, adapt from game to game, try and get a few wins until something clicks. Because I think there's that many options available in the squad. There's that many different solutions to different games. So I think don't be surprised if you see a mix of formations initially, especially given that he's got such little training ground time to focus on just one idea as well. Like you can't just go 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2, Delap, Pedro. I think he'll try and suss out very quickly what he can do with the squad on a larger scale from game to game. Well, I think as well, I saw something where he spoke about the importance of analysis within the team as well. I think he spoke about certain players at Strasbourg where he actually sat with them, new players, 3 or 4 multiple video sessions, 30 to 40 minutes long. So the detail is clearly there. And I think a lot of that message he's going to want to get across will be how receptive will the players be. If they are, then that I think will obviously make his job a lot more easier. We spoke about it, some of the big players in the changing room. If you can get them on board, that'll make a big difference. Yeah, and that's obviously something we can't cover on the channel because we don't know the players, we don't know their mentality. But that is obviously the massive grey area about this, and it's up to the Chelsea squad and the Chelsea manager now to get the players on board. How swift of a turnover that can be from making the players buy in. If the players want to buy in, you really don't know what will happen in a modern day dressing room. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for joining me as always, Patrick. And if you did like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back next week for some more analysis. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.